You ever just sit back and look at a game and think, how the hell did this not become one of the biggest games ever made? Not underrated, not forgotten, not ahead of its time. I mean, a game that almost did everything right and still somehow got sent to the fucking Shadow Realm. For me, that's Titanfall 2, because somehow Respawn built one of the best shooters in the last decade, and then EA responded by throwing it directly into traffic. For us to better understand the failure of Titanfall 2, we're going to have to start with Titanfall 1. The year is 2014. My toxic ex is finally graduating high school, and I'll never have to see her again. Just kidding. She's actually going to stalk me. At this time, everybody's doing like the standard military shooting thing. Run here, hide behind this wall, throw a grenade, repeat. And then randomly shows up Titanfall. Titanfall says, what if we gave everybody enough Adderall to kill an elephant and then add rocket-powered parkour? And we all just replied with, all right, fucking bet. There was double jumping, you could fly across rooftops, it put Space Force to shame by calling down insane mechs from space. The game was awesome, but I think everybody would agree it wasn't perfect. The biggest complaint that there was is there was no campaign, none. You paid $60 and Respawn basically looked at you and said, nah, we're gonna go shoot each other for like 400 hours. And despite that, people loved it. We were starting to get to a point where it was kind of normal to not have campaigns. Like most people were just playing online shooters anyway. So they kind of just skipped the campaign and went straight into it. So, I mean, after a pretty successful launch, they went back to the studio, they went back to the kitchen, they started cooking, and Respawn came up with a campaign. Done. More Titans, we added them, more customization, better progression. And then the big one is it was already out for Xbox, but now we have a PlayStation release. So we have more players. This is awesome, right? They literally looked at the game and said, what if we fixed literally every complaint people had? And then they just fucking did, which, by the way, is a completely foreign concept in modern gaming. Like nowadays, developers hear feedback and respond with, interesting. How about we fix your issues with our $20 battle pass? If you haven't had the pleasure of playing Titanfall 2, all you need to know is the campaign was incredible. BT, my sweet, sweet campaign companion, Respawn somehow tricked an entire generation of gamers into emotionally bonding with a robot. No, not you. Get the fuck out of here. BT isn't even a character. He's a walking tank with Bluetooth, and by the end of the game, people would have donated their organs for him. Then there was the movement. Even today, almost 10 years later, Titanfall 2 movement feels insane. I mean, just look at the background footage I have playing. Most shooters make you feel like a soldier. Titanfall 2 made you feel like somebody took Spider-Man out of Queens, put him into the Bronx, and then gave him an unregistered firearm. The floor became lava. Good players weren't running through maps anymore. They were violating the laws of physics so they could travel the map. Critics loved it. Players loved it. Everybody loved it. By late 2016, Titanfall 2 looked like a guaranteed success. This thing should have printed money, which is exactly why what happened next is so unbelievable. So if you weren't previously a Titanfall 2 fan, this is where I need you to buckle in, because things are about to get fucking stupid.
Seatbelt sign is on. Yeah,
And I don't mean like normal gaming industry stupid. I mean like who approved this fucking meeting stupid. Battlefield 1 launches October 21st. Titanfall launches October 28th. Call of Duty launches November 4th. When I first saw these dates, I assumed I had misread them, because surely nobody would do that intentionally, right? I mean, right? That's not strategy. That's drinking 15 roadie sodies on the way to pick up the little tyke from soccer practice. Titanfall was given 1 week. One week. Imagine your 11-year-old son is super into the WWE and loves wrestling around the house, so you sign him up to fight against prime Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. Not because you hate him, just because you're so fucking stupid. That's what EA did to Titanfall 2. The more I researched this story, the more I became convinced that somebody at EA had to have lost a bet, because there's no other explanation. Nobody looks at Battlefield and Call of Duty and says, you know who should fight both of them at the same time? Titanfall 2. What in God's name did you think was going to happen? And before somebody says, dude, nobody knew that Call of Duty and Battlefield were going to sell. It's Battlefield and Call of Duty. That's like releasing your game in the same month as GTA and then acting shocked that nobody bought it. Actually, don't worry about that one. We're going to talk about that in our next video. And speaking of future videos, apparently 86% of you who are watching are not subscribed, which is wild, because at this point you've listened to me talk about robot parkour for like the last 6 minutes. We're basically family now, so just hit the subscribe button. Battlefield 1 was everywhere. The trailers were incredible. People were excited. World War 1 felt really fresh considering what we had been coming from. Everyone was talking about it. And then 1 week later, Titanfall 2 launches. And before it can even catch its breath, Call of Duty arrives. Now, yes, people clown on Infinite Warfare today. And honestly, it's deserved, but let's not rewrite history. Call of Duty was a monster at this time still. It didn't have the reputation that it has now. People bought Call of Duty because it was Call of Duty. Half the player base could have hated the fucking trailer and still showed up for day one, which I'm pretty sure is what happens each release they have. It was basically a yearly holiday at that point. Titanfall wasn't competing with one giant, it was competing with two at the same time for the same audience and the same 2-week window. It's one of those decisions that's so dumb that you start assuming there must have been some secret master plan. And then you realize, nope, these are just a bunch of fucking idiots behind the computer screen. That was the plan. That's what makes it so much worse. EA published both Battlefield and Titanfall. Both of them. They were competing with themselves. And then they looked at their own game and said, nah, put them in the fucking blender.
Well, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
I think the saddest part of it all is Titanfall 2 isn't bad. Even in today's standards, it holds up super well. And it would have made sense if the game sucked. Okay, I get it. We'd be done. Case closed. But the game was phenomenal. Critics loved it. Players loved it. Reviewers loved it. To this day, you'll still find people calling it one of the best FPS campaigns ever made. And honestly, they're right. I mean, it deserves it. The problem wasn't quality. The problem wasn't visibility. It was that everybody was already busy playing Battlefield or waiting for the new shitty Call of Duty to come out. Titanfall became the third choice in a market dominated by giants. Third place might as well be last. I mean, sales underperformed, player numbers struggled, and one of the best shooters ever made never got the momentum it deserved. And I know I've reiterated this like 15 times. You guys are probably tired of hearing it, but this is what pisses me off so much about Titanfall. It didn't lose a fair fight. EA tied one hand behind its back, shoved it into an octagon, locked the door, and then started taking bets. This wasn't bad luck. This was bad timing. Somebody looked at the release calendar, signed off on it. That's a real human being with a real job, a real salary, somebody who has access to the internet, and they still fucked up. I mean, to this day, Titanfall 2, it survived. I mean, people still play it. The campaign is still often referred to as one of the best campaigns for a single player FPS shooter ever. Every Titanfall video on YouTube basically turns into a support group and just thousands of people in the comments saying, man, I love this game. In my opinion, as somebody who hates battle royales, the next little bit of information is kind of sad because Respawn went on from Titanfall 2 to make Apex Legends. And Apex Legends is their cash cow. It makes them so much money that we'll probably never see another Titanfall 3. And I can tell you, me personally as a Titanfall fan, that really busts my balls. And I guarantee the rest of the Titanfall community feels the same way. But now Titanfall becomes one of the biggest what ifs in gaming history. What if it launched in a different month? What if EA gave it room to breathe? What if one of the best shooters ever made actually got the chance it deserved? And unfortunately, we'll never know. But what we do know is Titanfall 2 didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because somebody looked at Battlefield and Call of Duty and somehow thought the middle was the safest place to stand. And that, my friends, might be one of the dumbest launch decisions in gaming history. If you've never played Titanfall 2, seriously, go play it. I recommend it. It's cheap. You can usually find it for like $5. It still holds up. The campaign's great. People still play the multiplayer. And unlike EA's release strategy, it's actually a good decision.